Yeah, I would say I'm not an expert on in terms of telling you exactly what postpartum depression and anxiety and mood disorders are in terms of a specialty. But I am someone who comes into people's homes postpartum, meaning after birth, and
Okay.
one of my jobs. I have many jobs. One of my jobs is to keep an eye out for signs of postpartum depression and anxiety disorder, and then refer my clients out to a specialist. It is very common. It can happen to anyone. It is more likely to happen to someone who has a history of depression or has a family history of depression. There's a lot of hormones that are uh, readjusting after birth, during birth, and after birth. And especially if someone is nursing, breastfeeding, feeding off their body, there's a whole other element of hormones that are at play. And this can sometimes trigger a mood disorder. And what's really, really important is that we have assessments for parents postpartum. Every parent who's given birth should have an assessment at some point, and that there should be an outside person coming in to get a barometer of what's going on in this family. What's really difficult is if someone goes untreated and they keep it inside and they don't tell anyone. They think there's a lot of obsessive thoughts that can happen, a lot of scary thoughts, and it feels really daunting to share that with someone because we have all kinds of stories we make up in our minds that this makes me a bad mother, I'm unfit. But really keeping those thoughts inside is what's going to lead to a worsening of the condition. So it's really important that people seek treatment.
Listen to the vibes. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Vibes. I'd like to welcome here Foster Wilson, who is a poet, an author, and a postpartum doula. We're going to talk a little bit about everything, but I believe we wanted to focus a little bit more on the postpartum stuff. So before we get into it, tell us a little bit more about you.
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm so honored to be here and chat with you. Yeah, so I am currently a postpartum doula and a poet, but I've had a long history of different creative expressions in my life. I've been an actor and a film director and producer, and more recently, switched into out of the film business and into birth work, which has been a really rewarding career shift for me and really exciting. And then I've been expressing myself more as a poet and an author, and I'm a mom of two kiddos. And yeah, I'm here in Los Angeles, and I'm excited to chat.
Well, I did say I wanted to talk a little bit more about the postpartum. I'm assuming if someone needs you to come in, they're not exactly sure of their motherly instincts.
Hmm. Perhaps I do think that everyone who has given birth should have a postpartum doula, and if not a doula, like an outside person, then someone in their family who can come and nurture them. Um, we we underestimate, I think, as a society, what someone has gone through when they have gone through a birth experience, and rest and recovery and healing, nutrition, nourishment. These are all things that every new family needs, even if everything's gone well, even if everybody's healthy and there's no mood disorders, we still have challenges. Breastfeeding, we need support. We don't live in a society or a culture that really has a lot of we don't live in villages and we don't see a lot of people breastfeeding. So there's just a lack of understanding for someone, especially a male partner, may have never seen a breastfeeding until their own child, right? So it's hard to support your partner in that. So I think if you have family or friends that you feel close enough to support you, really, really asking them for a lot of support in those first, especially the first 6 to 8 weeks after birth. If you don't have family that's close by or trusted, or you don't have a close relationship with them, you might consider having a postpartum doula or support person to assist you in that time. I think we do believe that women should just go through this naturally, and it should just become should just be very easy. And that is never the case, I promise, is never the case. There's so much going on caring for this new human.
Well, as far as us guys go, I mean, I'm not the best father in the world, but I tried to help. Sometimes it wasn't easy because not caring for the child, but I believe how we should approach our wives. You know, sometimes they're like, just leave me alone, but I want you here so I can yell at you, that kind of thing.
Mm.
What should a guy do? You know, because it's kind of
Yeah.
confusing for a lot of guys.
Sure. I mean, I think being really open and curious as to what your partner is going through, we have no idea um, what kind of recovery this person will have. They could have had a vaginal delivery, they could have had a cesarean section, which means they're just a physical aspect of sitting up in bed is nearly impossible because of the muscles that have been cut and are it's a massive internal opening and organs that are being stitched back together, right? So this is a real big recovery. The four pillars of postpartum recovery are rest, nutrition, hydration, and community support. So rest, meaning everything we can do to keep that person who's recovering seated, resting on the couch, in bed, around the bed, not going for outings, not doing household chores. This means that the partner is really responsible for a lot of things, washing bottles and doing the dishes and meal prep, which leads to a lot of community support because you also may be getting up every 3 hours in the night to support breastfeeding or to wash a bottle or change diapers. So you also, as a partner, can be very fatigued and calling in the reinforcements at least, maybe 2, 3 times a week to have somebody come and say, I got the baby, you guys rest, I'll wake you in 3 hours when it's time to feed again. That can be a real saving grace for a lot of people. And I think just also telling your partner how you're feeling and just know that I want to support you at all costs. I will fill your water bottle every hour. I will make you tea and keep offering things and keep receiving feedback and adjusting because she doesn't know really until she's in it what she's going to need.
Well, are you pretty good at the nutrition part of it? Because I don't know how many folks really know how important that is.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about postpartum nutrition. I cook for a lot of my clients. I always say I'm not a professional chef. I have no ego in this whatsoever, but I do like to focus on nutrition of the person who's recovering. So that means in this phase, we want to have nice, warm, nutrient-dense foods. The body is recovering to take something that is cold or raw or unprocessed and bring it to body temperature and process those foods. It takes a lot more work. So we want to eat things that are easy on the system. And that means soups, stews, a lot of, beans, veggies, protein. I cook a lot of like eggs and avocado toast for my clients. Anything that's going to really keep them warm teas and warm water with lemon, things like that as well. And all of these veggies are cooked and stewed so that they can process through really easily. And really, all of the normal nutritional things in terms of a balance of vegetables and protein and potatoes and these kind of really nourishing and healing foods are what you want to keep in mind. And then I also like to add in the fact that whatever your cultural background is, whatever foods you grew up loving, what did your mom make you when you were sick that felt really good? Let's talk about that so I can make that for you because there's a mental and emotional component to that as well that makes you feel cared for.
Is there any combination of foods that are best for breastfeeding?
Um, one of the most important things in breastfeeding is hydration and getting enough calories. So sometimes we want to see our clients, if they're not maybe not getting enough calories, to have some more good fats, avocado, peanut butter, things like that. Oats and make a a peanut butter oat sort of energy ball that's got a lot of good seeds, flax seeds, chia seeds, brewer's yeast is an additive that you can a powder you can add into different things to kind of promote healthy breastfeeding. But the most important thing is that you're getting enough calories, getting enough water, and you're expressing milk as much as the baby needs and at the minimum every 3 hours. That's going to be the game changer. The nutrition wise, just get enough calories to make the milk.
It's my understanding that breastfeeding also promotes the natural immunization for children.
Yeah, a lot of things that are passed on to baby. One of the coolest things that I learned was that when your baby has a cold, maybe they're a little bit older, 4, 5, 6 months, they get a little cold, your breast tissue actually pulls in saliva, analyzes it, and adjusts the milk to try to heal, try to pass along antibodies to the baby. And I think that's just one of the coolest things in the world. Our bodies are amazing, and breast milk is just a really cool thing.
There's so many benefits to breastfeeding.
There are a lot of benefits to breastfeeding, and I think everybody is different, right? We don't know what one person's anatomy is going to be like. We don't know what their tissues are like if they've ever had a surgery, either breast implants or breast reduction surgery. There might be some issues going there with reattachment of glands that we don't know about. And so we don't know for sure how it's going to go. We can have our best intentions, and then we can also be prepared to pivot. There are a lot of options when it comes to feeding a baby. Of course, we have formula. We also have donor breast milk. Some of my clients do a hybrid option where it's just easier mentally to breastfeed during the day and to bottle feed at night. But we also don't know the history of someone's body. And so someone who might have experienced trauma in their body may not be comfortable feeding off their body, and
Sure.
therefore they make a different choice. And so it's my job as a postpartum doula to come in, make sure that my clients have the information of all the choices they have, and then they make the best choice for them. And then I support them in whatever that means. If breastfeeding is really important to them and there aren't any anatomy differences that are between the baby and the parent that are going to maybe cause an issue here, then we're going to really get into what's going on. What kind of support do you need? Do you need a lactation consultant to come in and give you some other tips? We really need to get a plan going. I've also seen some clients have every intention of feeding, and then baby is born premature or with a tongue tie or some other anatomy thing that it makes it much more difficult, and then feeding becomes a really big stressor to the parent, and every time they go to breastfeed makes them cloudy. They have brain fog. They are frustrated that the baby's not latching, and it's not good mental health for my client. So we really have to now have a cost benefit analysis of, is breastfeeding the right thing to continue with if your mental health is suffering? If mom is not healthy, we're not going to have a healthy family here. So there's all these little adjustments and questions along the way, and I I want to hit home to everybody that whatever choice you make for your family and your baby, that's your family. So we're all going to support you in that, and we just want to make sure you have all the information you need.
Well, I know one of my daughters, she breastfed and she didn't get enough nutrition herself and she got
Mhm.
so skinny.
Mhm.
It took a while for her to put the weight back on, but that's not healthy. It's not safe.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. I'm sorry to hear that. I remember when I was pregnant, my midwife said, I was really concerned about nutrition and am I eating enough protein? And she said, your baby is going to be fine. They're going to get everything they need off you. If you don't eat well, you're the one who's going to become depleted. Baby's going to get it all from you, but it's going to siphon it off of you as opposed to off of the nutrition that you're eating. So you eat well for you, baby's going to be fine. And that's true too. Your body is made to, if we're breastfeeding and it's going well, your body is made to feed that baby and keep that baby healthy. But you yourself have to fill your own cup, both physically with food and water, but also emotionally and mentally, which means it's okay to take a break. It's okay to tap out, ask for help. Those 15, 20 minutes a day where you get someone else to watch the baby and you take a nice hot shower or a bath or whatever feels good to you. Um, Journaling, meditating, whatever it is to get back to like the you that was there before you became a mother. It's so vital, really listening to that inner self.
Did you mention how long you usually stay to help?
I don't think I mentioned that. I see clients in home anywhere from 4 to 6 hours at a time,
Mhm.
and once a week, twice a week. Sometimes I see people 4 or 5 times a week, and I really usually stay the first 6 to 8 weeks after birth. Some people a little bit longer, but by the time the baby is about 3 months old. I have my job is to work myself out of a job. So hopefully I have helped them recover enough and they understand enough and have gotten the swing of newborn life. And then if they need more support after that, I usually recommend we start to bring in a newborn care specialist or a nanny to work with them and do more hands-on baby care. So,
Does any of your writing reflect what you do?
it's really interesting. Yeah, I have some poems in my new book, which is called Afternoon Abundance, Poetry for Wild Souls. Um, I do really question what's going on in society right now with this lack of postpartum care and lack of support for new mothers, new fathers, new families after birth and in young childhood altogether. Um, I kind of bemoan the the loss of a village. I question and ask the question of where our village is and how can we find it. And then in my book, I also explore motherhood and identity and who am I now that I'm a mother? Who have I lost? What have I gained? And there's a lot about my children in the book as well.
I still remember a time as a child that our neighbors would discipline us if we were acting up.
Mm.
Everybody was on the same page because they wanted to make sure that the kids were doing right. So you weren't going to get away with anything. But if you were 10 minutes down the street and you did something wrong, I guarantee you your mom or dad was going to know about it before you got home.
Yeah, it's a different time, huh? I know. Well, and we had more independence then, as a kid, there was more independence. So then there was a community support system for a family if you were out late, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very
Well,
different.
we don't know our neighbors nowadays. We just don't. So that's part of it. And it's hard to trust people, quite honestly, nowadays. You have
Hmm.
too many wolves in sheep's clothing out there, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, I think some of the best places I've ever lived, especially here in LA, have been um, when I first moved to LA, I lived in an area where it was all sort of like sixplex apartments, and nobody had a backyard. And there were lots of kids. It was really diverse on the street. And because nobody had their own backyard and like own picket fence and all of that, we were city living, right? And so when it was hot in the summer and we had these older buildings and didn't have AC. And so everybody just in the afternoon just sort of came out and was hanging out on the sidewalk and on the stoops and doing chalk art together. And I have the fondest memories of this because we were I felt like I had a community. I knew my neighbors. I relied on them for, childcare swaps. Can you help us out? I got to run do this thing. You take my kid for a few hours. Kids loved it, and they were all different ages. Very, like I said, very diverse. I I think of those as like the good old days. It wasn't that long ago, but I think of those as the good old days. My kids were little, and we really did have a little village right there on the street. And some of our neighbors, we've all moved different places, and they're still some of our best friends because that's so bonding. And I wish everybody has that experience. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Now, how many books have you written?
So this book just came out in September.
Hmm.
I'll show it here. This is my first book, and
Oh,
I
okay.
have two books coming out in 2025 that are also poetry collections that have been written, and they're just in the process now of the publishing process. But yeah, Afternoon Abundance is my first book, and it feels very freeing. I love poetry and writing as an art form and as a way of self-expression. Um, I have been, as I said, an actor, a director, and I've had all these different ways of expressing myself, but has felt the most true and the most authentic and the most real for me. And there's something about how I love a collaborative art form. However, there was something very personal about this being done almost entirely on my own.
Mm.
I did have a wonderful artist I collaborated with for the sketches inside the book and the cover design. But everything about the writing was sort of solitary and private and personal and raw. And then I had to have a moment where I really analyzed whether or not these words were going to go out into the world, and the answer I got was yes. So here they are. It's a personal exploration of different transformative moments in my life. But the feedback I've gotten so far is it's been very resonant for people, and they're seeing a lot of themselves in it. And I think that's a really beautiful thing.
And where can people purchase this book?
Yeah, it's on pretty much everywhere. Books are sold online, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, bookshop.org, and then my website as well, fosterwilson.com. You can find the links there, and you can also order directly from me if you'd like a signed copy.
Hmm. And what's your social media?
My social media is the Foster Wilson on Instagram. Pretty much the only place that I'm on social media is Instagram.
Okay. Well, I will put those links in the description just to make it easier for folks.
Great.
Foster, thank you so much for coming on today. It's been educational.
Yeah, I'm so glad. Thanks for asking wonderful questions, Kyle.
I also want to thank all you folks out there. If you are new to the channel, I hope you'll come back. Please hit that subscribe button for my regulars. You guys are awesome because you make it possible for me to do this. Until the next one, everyone, please take care. Be kind to one another. God bless and peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favourite podcasts, and on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network